Okay, so what we're going to look at today is negative numbers and BIDMAS. And we're going to start out just by drawing a little number line at the top of this page here, just so we can orientate ourselves about where our positive and our negative numbers. So we're going to use the numbers from negative 10 to positive 10. Okay, so 0 is always in the middle. 0 is the middle of our positive and our negative number planes. Okay, and at the top in here we're going to have 10, positive 10. And then I'm going to make it go down in 2, so 8, 6, 4. Ooh, actually, you know what? That's not a really great scale. I'll do it in ones instead. I think I've got enough room. So I'll just mark in 5 in the middle here. And I'm going to have 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, plenty of room. And then 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and same thing coming back in the opposite direction. So I'm going to have negative 10 down here, put negative 5 in around about the middle there. Okay, we're going to have negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and then negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9. Now, if your number line's always symmetrical on either side of 0, except for obviously one side's positive and one's negative. So you go from 0 up to 10, and then on the other side, you go down from negative 1 all the way down to negative 10. It's really important that you have that in your mind, that when something's becoming more positive on the number line, if it's a negative number, it's going closer to 0 so that your numbers actually get smaller. A lot of people, when they're thinking about negative numbers, they think about it in the same way with positives. So when you subtract, your number gets smaller, and when you add, your number gets bigger. But when we're working with negatives, it's the opposite way around. When you subtract from a negative number, your individual digit part gets bigger, but that means it gets more negative. And when you add, your number gets closer to 0, so it gets more positive but smaller. Okay, and that's a really important thing that you have to wrap your head around when we're dealing with negatives. So the first one is we've got 2 minus 4. So if you need to, start out at positive 2 on our number line, and then we're going with minus 4, so we're going down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to negative 2. Okay, and that's our first one. Let's see if I can crop that out. Beautiful. Next one, I'm just going to change my colour. We got negative 3 plus 1. So in this case, we're starting at negative 3. And we're adding 1, so we're getting bigger. We're going more positive. So we add 1, and we go up to negative 2. Okay, so there's our answer for that next one. And again, adding, but the actual digit, that 2 seems smaller than 3, but it's actually not. It's bigger because it's closer to 0. Okay, and then last one, we've got 5, and we take away negative 1. And if we're taking away negative 1, remembering that 2 negatives make a positive, so that's actually the same as 5 plus 1. But I want you to think away. If you're taking away a negative 1, that's actually meaning you're going 1 bigger. Okay, you're increasing by 1 because you're taking away something that would have been bringing this down. Okay, so that becomes 5 plus 1, which is 6. Alrighty, there we go. We're now going to look at some multiplication and division. And again, I'm going to use the number line. So I've got here negative 2 times 3. So what I have there, I'm going to use my highlighter instead. I've got 3 lots of negative 2. So if I mark in here, there's one lot of negative 2 between 0 and negative 2. There's a second lot of negative 2. Okay, and I've got a third lot of negative 2. So if I've got 3 lots of negative 2, that gives me negative 6. Okay, now if I have negative 4 lots of negative 2, okay, again, we're working in the opposite direction. Whenever something becomes a negative, what you're doing is you're changing the direction that we're looking at it in. So negative 4 lots of negative 2, okay, that means that we're looking at, that's the same as saying 4 lots of positive 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so our answer in this case is 8. Okay, and our rule for this one is that a negative times a negative is always a positive. Okay, next one, I'm going to leave the number line for now so I can keep going down. Next one's 10 divided by negative 5. Okay, so something that you could ask yourself in your head is, you could do this almost a bit like an algebraic equation. So what number times by negative 5 would be equal to 10? And we know that a negative times a negative has to be a positive. So we know that this has to be a negative here for this answer to be positive. Okay, and if we divide through by -5, okay, we end up with -2. Now you don't need to do it like that, okay, but however, same rule for division and multiplication. A positive times or divided by a negative is always equal to a negative. Okay, so we know 10 divided by 5 is 2, and this is a positive divided by a negative, so that's -2. All right. Last one, again, we have the same rule for double negatives with multiplication and division. So -18 divided by -2, a positive times by a positive is a positive. A positive times by a negative is a negative, same as that first one above. A negative times by a negative is always a positive as well, and same with division. So we know 2 goes into 18 9 times, and that's a negative divided by a negative, so our answer should be a positive. All right, last thing is we're going to look at BIDMAS, and you should be well aware by now, BIDMAS stands for brackets, indices, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. And we kind of list division and multiplication on the same level because they're really the same operation, so they just do the opposite of each other, and same with addition and subtraction. Okay, so we're going to work this first one out here, and there's a couple of things you can do when you're doing BIDMAS questions, which is really all maths from now on. You should never ever think about BIDMAS as being separate from maths. This is the rule that defines every calculation that you're going to do in your maths. So anyway, when you're doing any kind of maths calculation, a couple of things you can do to help. First one is always work vertically, and try and just work out one thing at a time. Okay, and that'll really help you to be able to answer the question methodically. Which is one of the key things. So here we've got an indices, so we're going to do that first. So 2 squared, that's 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, and then I'm just going to write everything else exactly how it stays in the question there. Next one, we've got a multiplication. So that's our next thing that we're going to do. So 4 times 4 is 16, minus 10. Okay, and then we can work out the last bit. 16 minus 10 is 6, and that's our answer. Okay, next one, brackets first. So 8 times 3, that's 24. Divided by 2 plus 5, and again just write everything else. 24 divided by 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17. Alright, last one, multiplication is the first thing we're going to do, because then we're just subtracting that one on the end. So -6 times by 7, well a negative times a positive is a negative, so 6 times 7 is 42, so my answer is going to be -42 minus 1. Okay, now we're going one less than -42, so that's going one number kind of bigger down the number line, so I'm actually going to end up then with -43, okay, which is my answer. Alright, that's it for today. Hopefully that's useful, and keep up the revision, guys.